Madam President.
The Republican leader.
As is typical this time of year, the Senate's attention is focused squarely on a long list of business with deadlines fast approaching. Extending government funding by Friday is our top priority. Shutting the government down is a one-way ticket to needless disruption of important functions. It's never been a winning proposition, and this time is no different. Delivering urgent disaster relief is a non-negotiable as communities across the country continue to pick up the pieces from a devastating storm season. They're watching closely for the Senate to deliver on the promise of a much-needed helping hand. And after months of unnecessary delay, the Senate will finally vote on the National Defense Authorization Act. The Armed Services Committee reported this year's NDAA 6 months ago by an overwhelming bipartisan vote. The fact that it has only reached the floor a week before Christmas is really inexcusable. So is the absence of a vote on defense appropriations legislation. And the blame for this neglect will rest squarely on the outgoing Senate majority. Ranking Member Wicker and our colleagues on the committee tried mightily to ensure that the final bill, Congress' main annual opportunity to shape national defense priorities, backs tough talk on growing threats with the tools required to meet them. But the NDAA, like all major legislation, is a compromised product. In the absence of the Senate-backed increase to top-line investments will go down as a tremendous missed opportunity. Artificial budget restraints mean that major bill provisions, like a pay raise for enlisted service members, will come at the expense of investments in the critical weapon systems and munitions that deter conflict and keep them safe. For all the talk about growing threats to America's national security, it's past time for an honest conversation about the military requirements to meet those needs. And if this NDAA offers any valuable lesson, it's that we have a tremendous amount of work to do. Now, on an entirely different matter, my earliest participation in politics was wearing an "I Like Ike" pin on a school picture day. Well, last month, the state of Indiana was chanting, "I like Mike." Mike Braun's fellow Hoosiers like him so much, in fact, they've decided to steal him back from Washington to be their governor. And if I know anything about Indiana's junior senator, he's probably looking forward to trading in the trappings of this institution for a job a lot closer to home. But I'd like to say just a few words before he goes. Years ago, a local reporter asked Mike Braun about his approach to life and to work. He told him, quote, "You live like you're going out of business every day, and it makes you healthy." For a spry former three-sport athlete like Mike, that much checks out. But needless to say, in the process of keeping him young, our colleague's mantra also brought a fair bit of political success. Sure, a cushy white-collar gig and a predictable corporate ladder would have been actually the natural next step for a high achiever fresh out of Harvard Business School. But where's the fun in that? For Mike, in order to live like you're going out of business, you have to run a business yourself. You've got to build a team and take risks, and what better place to do that than in your own hometown? Most of us are familiar with at least some of what came next for Mike and his high school sweetheart, Maureen. The life and professional lessons of Mike's dad, Amos, a decorated World War II vet, steering a 15-person operation through the aftermath of the 1980s farm crisis and turning it into a national team spread across 38 states. For years, running that success with sleeves rolled up from a trailer office and raising 4 kids along the way, 3 of whom have found their own callings in the family business. As I understand it, we have Maureen to thank that this incredible story of hard work and entrepreneurial spirit took a turn into politics in the first place. When friends around Jasper tried drafting her to run for school board, she offered them Mike instead. And so began 2 decades and counting of life in politics. Here in the Senate, Mike's going out of business approach to public service made an early impression. Careful observers ranked him at one point the most effective freshman in the chamber. He dove headfirst into legislation that mattered to him and to Indiana. He advocated passionately for farmers and for families impacted by rare diseases. He fought for outcomes, and he stood on principle. But Hoosiers will be proud to know that he still doesn't like dressing up here on the Senate floor. And who can blame him? By Mike's own admission, most of what he likes to do, tend the farm, fish, and hunt, both animals and mushrooms, he can do within 60 miles of Jasper. So it speaks to Mike's commitment to his neighbors that even though he's leaving Washington, he's not quite going home just yet, nor will he be able to hang up the coat and the tie. The trust of the people of Indiana is rightly a great source of pride for our colleague, second only to his pride in the family he and Maureen built, and I know he can't wait to get to work for all of them in Indianapolis. So I know I speak for our colleagues when I thank Mike for his service these past 6 years. Wish him all the best in his next chapter.